Hello there, and welcome to another quiet night here, where science becomes something soft enough to fall asleep to. Tonight we are going to sit with the oldest question a human being has ever asked. Not a question about distant stars or deep oceans or faraway worlds, but a question about the small, warm light that seems to live somewhere behind your own eyes. Across every land and every century, people have reached toward this same quiet thing and given it 100 different names. Some called it the breath. Some called it the spark. Some called it the spirit or the self or the soul. Sometimes it feels like the most certain thing we own. Sometimes it seems to slip away the moment we try to hold it. And sometimes, in the soft hour just before sleep, you can almost feel its edges without looking. Over the next couple of hours, we will wander gently through what people have believed about the soul, what the ancient world imagined, what science can and cannot say, and all the strange and tender ideas that have grown up around this one quiet mystery. If these calm nights help you rest, you are welcome to like, subscribe, or leave a soft thought below whenever it suits you. But for now, there is nothing to solve and nowhere to be. Let your shoulders lower. Let the room grow dim. Let your breathing find its own slow rhythm, the way it has always known how. And as the day quietly lets go of you, stay with me while we explore this old and gentle mystery together. Let's begin. There is a strange thing that many people report from the very edge of life. When someone survives a moment when the heart has stopped, when they are pulled back from that thin threshold, they often return with the same quiet story. Not a story of fear, but of calm. They speak of a deep and unexpected peace, a sense that everything was somehow all right. Doctors and researchers who study these accounts have gathered thousands of them from many countries and cultures. What is remarkable is how similar they can be. The details differ, yet the feeling underneath is often the same soft stillness. Science does not tell us what this peace truly means. It may be the brain's own gentle way of quieting itself. It may be something we do not yet understand. But there is comfort in knowing that so many who have stood at that edge describe not terror, but a kind of homecoming. It is a fitting place to begin a night like this, at the quiet threshold where the human idea of the soul was perhaps first born. Among the things people describe at that threshold, one appears again and again. They speak of light. A soft light, warm rather than blinding, often seeming to come from somewhere ahead or above. Some feel drawn toward it gently, without any sense of being pulled or forced. This image of light has traveled through nearly every tradition on Earth. Long before hospitals and heart monitors, people spoke of the soul as a flame, a glow, a small inner sun. Old languages tied the words for spirit and for shining together. When science looks at these reports, it wonders whether the dying brain, low on oxygen, might create such light on its own, the way pressure on closed eyes can bloom into color. We cannot say for certain. What we can say is that the image is astonishingly old and astonishingly shared. Across deserts and forests and frozen coasts, human beings have imagined the deepest part of themselves as something luminous. Tonight, as you rest, you can let that gentle image stay with you. Another thread runs through these accounts, and it is perhaps the most human of all. Many people describe a feeling of being met, not alone at that threshold, but greeted. Some sense the presence of people they have loved and lost. Some feel a warmth that has no shape but feels deeply familiar. Researchers are careful here because grief and memory and hope all live close to these moments. The mind may reach for the faces it most wants to see, yet the pattern is worth noticing. Even at the farthest edge of experience, the thing people long for is connection. The soul, in almost every story humans have told, is not a lonely thing. It belongs to a web of others. This may say less about the afterlife than about the living heart, which even in its final quiet still turns toward love. There is something soft in that thought, something you can carry down into sleep. There is one more common feature of these threshold experiences, and it is oddly beautiful. People describe watching their own life move past them, not as a burden, but as a review. Small moments return, often the ones they had forgotten. A kindness given without thinking, a quiet afternoon, the touch of a hand. What strikes researchers is that these are rarely the grand events of a life. They are the gentle ones. It is as if, at the edge, the mind chooses tenderness over spectacle. We do not fully understand why the brain might do this. Memory and emotion share deep and ancient connections inside us, and stress can unlock them in unusual ways. But whatever the cause, there is a lesson hidden in the pattern that costs us nothing to keep. The small, warm moments may be the ones that matter most. You are living some of them now, in this very quiet, and they are quietly yours. The word soul has an old and physical origin, and it begins with something you are doing at this very moment. You are breathing. In many of the world's oldest languages, the words for soul and for breath were the same word, or very nearly so. To the ancient Greeks, the word psyche meant both the soul and the breath of life. In Latin, the word spiritus meant breath, and it still lives inside our words inspire and expire. The Hebrew word, often translated as soul, is tied to breathing and to the living throat. In Sanskrit, the word for the deepest self carries the sense of breath as well. This is not a coincidence. For most of human history, the clearest sign that a person was alive was that they were breathing, and the clearest sign that life had gone was that the breath had stopped. So the soul became the breath, the invisible movement that fills and leaves the body. Tonight, your own breath moves softly in and out, the oldest evidence of the living self, needing no thought from you at all. Because breath and soul were so tightly bound, many cultures believed the soul arrived with the first breath and departed with the last. This is where our old phrases come from. When we say someone gave up the ghost once simply meant the breath or the spirit. When we speak of a person's final breath, we are echoing a belief far older than any of us. Newborns were watched for that first cry, the first great inhalation, as the true beginning of a life. The dying were watched for the last soft exhale. Between those two breaths, a whole self would live. There is something quieting in this idea. It places the mystery of the soul not in some distant heaven, but in the simple rhythm of the chest rising and falling. You have taken hundreds of millions of breaths without counting a single one. Each was a small, unremarkable miracle. Let the next few move slowly, and let them carry you a little closer to rest. The butterfly, of all creatures, became one of humanity's favorite images for the soul, and the reason is gently poetic. The same Greek word psyche that meant soul and breath also meant butterfly. Ancient artists sometimes drew the soul as a small winged figure, or showed a butterfly rising from the lips of the dying. It is easy to see why the image took hold. A caterpillar seals itself away, seems to dissolve into stillness, and then emerges transformed and light enough to fly. To people watching, this looked like a small lesson in change and renewal, offered by nature itself. Cultures far from ancient Greece reached for the same symbol on their own. In many places, a butterfly or a moth near a sleeping person was thought to carry a spirit or a message or a memory. Whether or not any of this is literally so, the image endures because it is beautiful. Change, it whispers, is not always loss. Sometimes it is only a quieter kind of flight. Long before anyone studied the brain, ancient people had to guess where the self actually lived inside the body, and their most common answer was the heart. To them, it made perfect sense. The heart quickened when you were afraid. It pounded when you loved. It seemed to feel joy and grief directly, without waiting for thought. So many early cultures placed the soul, the mind, and the true self within the chest rather than the skull. This belief still lives in our language today. We speak of learning something by heart, of a heavy heart, of a heartfelt thank you. We say we know a thing in our heart, not in our brain. None of these phrases would make sense if our ancestors had guessed differently. When you feel your own heartbeat in the dark, slow and steady beneath everything else, you are touching the very organ that humans once believed held the entire soul. Let its quiet rhythm be a kind of lullaby beneath your thoughts. The people of ancient Egypt had one of the richest ideas of the soul the world has ever known, and it was not a single thing, but many. They believed a person was made of several distinct parts that together formed the whole self. There was the Ka, a kind of life force or double that needed sustenance even after death. There was the Ba, often pictured as a bird with a human face, the part that could move and travel and carried a person's unique character. There was the Ak, the transformed spirit that could journey on. To the Egyptians, dying was not the end of the self, but a careful separation and reunion of these parts. This is why they built such elaborate tombs and left food and belongings for the dead. They were not being foolish. They were caring for pieces of the soul they believed still had needs. It is one of the oldest and most detailed maps of the inner self ever drawn, and it reminds us how seriously our ancestors took the question we are quietly exploring tonight. To the Egyptians, one part of the soul was the name itself, and this idea is more moving than it first appears. They believed that a person's name, the Ren, was a living part of who they were. As long as the name was spoken and remembered, some essence of the person endured. To be forgotten completely, to have your name vanish from every mouth and every wall, was considered a second and final death, far worse than the first. This is why the powerful carved their names into stone again and again, and why erasing an enemy's name from a monument was an act of deep hostility. There is a quiet truth folded inside this ancient belief. We do, in a real sense, live on in the memory of others. When you speak the name of someone you loved and lost, you keep a small part of them alive in the room. The Egyptians simply gave that gentle human habit a place in their picture of the soul. The Egyptians even believed that your shadow was a part of you, a genuine piece of the soul they called the shod. It makes a strange kind of sense. Your shadow follows you everywhere in daylight, tied to your body yet somehow separate, dark where you are solid. To ancient eyes, it seemed like proof that a person was more than just flesh, that something extended outward from the self. Many cultures far from Egypt also treated the shadow with care and even caution, believing it revealed something about the spirit. A person who cast no shadow in old stories was often not quite human. We rarely think about our shadow now, this faithful gray companion that has walked beside us our whole lives. Yet for a long stretch of human history, it was considered part of the very soul. There is a soft wonder in remembering that even something as simple as a shadow was once thought to hold a fragment of who you are. When an Egyptian died, they imagined the soul facing a single unforgettable test, and it involved a feather. The heart of the dead was thought to be weighed on a great scale against the feather of truth. If the heart was light, unburdened by cruelty and lies, the person could pass onward into a peaceful afterlife. If the heart was heavy with wrongdoing, it tipped the scale. This is one of the earliest known ideas that how we live shapes what becomes of us. That goodness has a kind of weight, or rather a kind of lightness. You can see the gentle poetry in it. A good life was imagined as a light heart, easy to carry, nothing to hide. Whatever we believe about any afterlife, the image still speaks to us. To move through the world with a light heart, having tried to be kind and honest, is its own quiet reward. It is a soft thing to consider as the day sets down its own small weights. Nearly every human culture we know of has believed in some kind of soul or spirit, and this near-universal agreement is itself remarkable. From the frozen north to the tropics, from the earliest villages to the great cities, people who never met and never could have shared their ideas arrived again and again at the same conviction. There is something in a person, they felt, that is not merely the body, some inner self, some spark or breath or shadow that thinks and feels and perhaps continues. Scholars who study human societies find very few beliefs this widespread. It suggests that the sense of having a soul is not something taught into us so much as something that rises naturally from being human, from the strange experience of having an inner life that no one else can see. Whether the soul is real in the way our ancestors imagined, we cannot prove tonight. But the longing to believe in it may be one of the most human things about us. One of the oldest signs of the belief in a soul is not a written word, but a grave. Very long ago, our distant ancestors began to bury their dead with care, sometimes placing flowers, tools, food, or small treasured objects beside the body. Some of these burials are astonishingly old, reaching back tens of thousands of years, and a few may reach back further still. Researchers debate the details, as they should, but the pattern hints at something profound. To bury someone gently, to give them gifts for the road ahead, suggests a belief that the person had not entirely ceased to be. Why leave food for the dead unless some part of them might still hunger? Why fold the body as if in sleep unless there might be a waking? These silent graves are among the first evidence that human beings imagined a self that outlasts the body. They are quiet monuments to a hope as old as we are. The ancient Greeks thought deeply about the soul, and one of their greatest thinkers imagined it as having three parts, gently at war with one another. He pictured a part that reasons and seeks truth, a part that feels passion and courage and pride, and a part that hungers and desires. A good life, he suggested, was one where reason guided the whole, like a careful driver holding the reins of two very different horses. You may recognize this struggle from your own quiet hours. There is the part of you that knows what is wise. There is the part that feels things strongly. And there is the part that simply wants. Long before modern psychology, this old picture captured something we still feel to be true, that the self is not one smooth voice, but a small gathering of voices, not always in agreement. There is comfort in knowing that thinkers thousands of years ago felt this same gentle division and did not consider it a flaw, but simply the shape of being human. Another great Greek thinker took a different view of the soul, one that quietly shaped science for centuries. He proposed that the soul was not a separate substance trapped inside the body, but rather the form of the living body itself, the thing that made a living creature alive. To him, asking whether the soul and body were separate was like asking whether the shape of a candle and the wax were separate. They came into being together and could not truly be pulled apart. He also imagined levels of soul. Plants, he thought, had a simple soul of growth and nourishment. Animals had that plus sensation and movement. Humans had all of this plus the capacity to reason. It was an early attempt to place all living things on one gentle continuum of life. Whether or not he was right, the idea that life itself is a kind of animating principle, present in the smallest leaf and the largest creature, still carries a certain quiet beauty. For a very long time, thinkers argued over whether the soul lived in the heart or in the head, and the debate was surprisingly fierce. Some, following the old instinct, insisted the heart was the true seat of thought and feeling, and considered the brain a lesser organ. One famous view held that the brain existed mainly to cool the blood, a kind of living radiator. Others, watching how injuries to the head could change a person's mind and memory, argued that the brain was where the self resided. It took a very long time for the second view to win. Today we know the brain is deeply tied to thought, memory, and personality. Yet our language still leans toward the heart. We follow our heart. We speak from the heart. Perhaps both organs earned their place in the story of the self. The heart gave us the rhythm and the feeling. The brain gave us the thought and the memory. And somewhere between them lives the quiet sense of being you. The people of ancient Egypt, so careful with the body in death, did something that seems shocking to us now. During mummification, they preserved the heart with great reverence, but they removed the brain and discarded it, believing it had little importance. To them, the heart was the center of thought, memory, and the soul, and it had to stay with the body for the journey ahead. The brain was simply matter to be cleared away. It is a striking reminder that even the most sophisticated people can be certain of something that later turns out to be reversed. They were not foolish, they were reasoning carefully from what they could observe, and the beating, feeling heart was the more obvious candidate. It reminds us to hold our own certainties a little more gently. What seems obviously true about ourselves today may look very different to those who come after. The soul, and where it lives, has never stopped moving between the head and the heart. Across the ancient world, people imagined the land of the dead as a place with its own geography, and these visions are strangely detailed. The Greeks pictured a shadowy underworld reached by crossing dark rivers. The Egyptians imagined a hidden world the sun itself passed through each night. Many cultures place the souls of the dead beneath the earth, or beyond the western horizon where the sun goes down, or up among the stars. What is touching is how much thought went into these places. People described their rivers, their guardians, their rules, their gentle fields where the good might rest. They were not simply afraid of death. They were trying to imagine a home for the part of us that they believed continued. These old maps of the afterlife tell us less about what waits beyond, and more about the human heart, which cannot bear to think of the beloved dead as simply gone, and so builds them a country in the imagination, complete with rivers and light. In many of these old visions, a soul needed help to make its passage, and so the living gave it gifts. The Greeks sometimes placed a small coin with the dead, a fare for the ferryman who would carry the soul across the river between the worlds. Other cultures buried tools, weapons, jewelry, or food, believing these would be needed on the far side. Some placed a lamp in the tomb to light the way. Whatever the specific custom, the tender instinct behind it was the same everywhere. We do not want those we love to travel unprepared or alone. We want to send them off with something in their hands. Even now, though few of us believe in ferrymen, we place flowers, letters, and small treasured things with our dead. The old coin for the ferryman has faded, but the impulse remains, quiet and unchanged. It is one of the oldest ways love has found to reach past the border of death. Some of the world's great traditions imagined the soul not as traveling once to a final place, but as returning again and again to new lives. This idea, found across many cultures, holds that the deepest self is not created fresh with each body, but carries onward, taking new forms across long stretches of time. In these visions, a soul might live many lives, learning and changing, shaped by how it lived before. Whether one finds this idea true or simply beautiful, it has a certain gentle logic. It imagines the soul as something durable, patient, moving through the world the way a traveler moves through many inns on a long road, never truly at home in any single one. It also softens the sharp line between beginning and end. In this picture, there is no first breath and no last, only an endless, quiet series of arrivals and departures. It is a large and peaceful thought to rest against on a night like this. Many languages quietly reveal that people once believed the soul entered the world with the very first breath a baby takes. In older ways of thinking, a child was not fully a living self until that first great inhalation drew the spirit in. The first cry of a newborn was therefore a sacred sound, the audible arrival of a soul. You can still feel the echo of this in how we treat that first breath as the true start of a life. Parents wait for it, hold their own breath until they hear it. There is something profound in the thought that the same simple act you are doing now, drawing air softly in and letting it go, was once seen as the doorway through which the self first arrived. Your breathing tonight is quieter than a newborn's, but it is the same ancient motion, the one our ancestors watched for as the sign that a soul had come to stay. Just as the first breath was thought to bring the soul, the last breath was thought to release it, and this shaped how people cared for the dying. In many traditions, family would gather close in the final hours, sometimes to catch or bless that last exhale. A window might be open to let the spirit pass freely outward. The dying were kept in company, spoken to gently, so the soul would not depart afraid or alone. These customs varied, but the care within them was universal. To sit with someone at the threshold, to make the room soft and the leaving gentle, is one of the deepest acts of love human beings perform. We do it still, holding a hand, lowering our voices, staying near. The old belief that a soul leaves on the final breath gave these tender acts a meaning, but the tenderness would be there regardless. It rises from love, which has always kept watch at both doors of a life. The word spirit, which we use so often, is really just an old word for breath in disguise. It comes from a root meaning to breathe or to blow, the same root that gives us respiration and inspiration. To inspire someone was once, quite literally, to breathe something into them. When we say a room has a lively spirit, or that a person is dispirited, we are unknowingly using the language of breath. This hidden thread runs through many languages at once. The invisible movement of air became the natural symbol for the invisible movement of life within us. It is fitting when you think about it. Breath is the one part of the body that is both automatic and, for a moment, controllable, both given to us and shaped by us. No wonder our ancestors chose it to stand for the soul. As you lie here breathing without effort, you are quietly speaking the oldest language of the spirit. One word for every gentle rise and fall of your chest. Sneezing, of all things, was once tied to beliefs about the soul, which is why we still bless people who sneeze. In several old traditions, a sneeze was thought to momentarily loosen the spirit, or to be a vulnerable instant when something might slip in or out. Saying a blessing was a small protective charm, a way of steadying the soul in that startled moment. This is one origin often suggested for the gentle custom we keep to this day, usually without any idea why. It is a lovely example of how ancient beliefs about the self survive as small habits long after the beliefs themselves have faded. We say a kind word to a stranger who sneezes on a train, a soft echo of a time when people truly feared the soul might be jostled loose. There is warmth in these little inherited kindnesses, these fossils of old care, still performed for no reason we remember. Dreams presented our ancestors with a genuine puzzle about the soul, and their answer was elegant. If the body lies still in sleep, they reasoned, yet the sleeper travels, speaks with the dead, and sees distant places, then surely some part of the self must be wandering while the body rests. So many cultures came to believe that dreaming was the soul leaving the body to roam. This is why waking a sleeper suddenly was sometimes thought risky, lest the soul not return in time. Modern science understands sleep quite differently, as the brain sorting memories and cycling through its own inner activity. Yet the old intuition touched something real. In dreams, we do go elsewhere. We meet the lost, revisit old rooms, become other selves. The feeling of travel is genuine, even if the body never moves. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you are approaching that same mysterious country our ancestors watched with such wonder, the place where the resting self quietly slips its familiar shape. There is a real and measurable network in the brain that seems to hum whenever you turn your attention inward, and it may be the closest thing science has found to the machinery of the self. When you stop focusing on any task and let your mind drift, when you think about yourself, your past, your future, or replay a conversation, a particular set of brain regions becomes active together. Researchers sometimes call this the default mode network, because it is what the brain tends to do by default in quiet moments. It appears deeply tied to the sense of being a continuous person with a story. This does not tell us what the soul is, but it does show that the feeling of an inner self is not floating free of the body. It rises, at least in part, from living tissue quietly at work. As your mind wanders now toward sleep, that gentle network is softly turning down its lights, and the busy narrator of your day is beginning to rest. Scientists have found that a small region of the brain, when gently stimulated, can make a person feel as though they have left their own body. In careful studies, activity in an area where several senses come together produced the vivid sensation of floating above oneself or of a shadowy presence standing nearby. This is fascinating for what it suggests about the soul. The feeling of being a self located behind the eyes and the rarer feeling of drifting outside the body may both be things the brain constructs. It builds our sense of where we are, and now and then that construction shifts. None of this proves the soul does not exist. It simply shows how the body creates our everyday sense of being someone, somewhere. And it gently explains why people at the very edge of life, when the brain is under great strain, so often describe floating and watching from above. The mind, even then, is doing what it has always done, quietly telling us where we are. You have almost certainly felt, without ever questioning it, that you live somewhere behind your eyes, looking out. This sensation is so natural that we rarely notice it, yet it is one of the brain's quiet inventions. There is no single point inside your head where you actually sit. The feeling of being a viewer positioned just behind the face is something the brain assembles from many streams of information. People with different brain conditions can lose or change this feeling, sensing themselves elsewhere or everywhere, or nowhere in particular. This is worth resting with gently. The you that seems to peer out from a small cockpit inside the skull is not a thing science has ever found. It is a feeling, wonderfully convincing, built fresh in every waking moment. That does not make it less real to you, but it does add a soft mystery to the simple act of looking out at the world. The watcher behind your eyes is one of the deepest riddles of the self. Nearly every cell in your body will be replaced over the course of your life, and yet you feel like the same person throughout. The lining of your stomach renews itself in days. Your skin sheds and rebuilds constantly. Many tissues quietly swap out their material over months and years. The atoms that make you now are largely not the ones that made you as a child. And still, through all this endless replacement, there is a steady sense of being one continuous self. This is one of the oldest puzzles about identity, sometimes told as the story of an old ship whose every plank is replaced until nothing original remains. Is it still the same ship? Are you still the same you? Something persists that is not the material, some pattern, some thread of memory and habit and self. Perhaps this is close to what the ancients were reaching for when they spoke of the soul. Not the ever-changing flesh, but the quiet continuity that runs through it, like a melody through changing notes. If the body is always changing, then what makes you feel like one continuous person may be memory, the quiet thread that ties your days together. Each morning you wake, and without effort, you are still you, because you remember being you. You carry forward the story of your life, the people in it, the places, the small private jokes. This inner thread is so strong that we rarely notice we depend on it. But when memory is disturbed, the sense of self can loosen, which shows how much the soul, as we experience it, is woven from remembering. There is something both fragile and beautiful in this. The self is not a solid object, but a story being quietly told night after night by a mind stitching yesterday to today. As you rest now, that gentle stitching softens for a while. You can set the story down. It will still be there, whole and yours, when the morning light picks the thread back up. The two halves of the human brain can act with surprising independence, and studying this has revealed something startling about the sense of a single self. In certain rare cases where the connection between the halves is interrupted, each side can seem to know things the other does not. Yet the person still feels like one unified self, because one part of the brain quietly works to explain and narrate everything into a single story. Researchers sometimes call this the interpreter, the part of us that spins the many streams of the mind into one coherent voice. It suggests that the smooth sense of being a single you is partly a gentle fiction the brain is always composing. This is not troubling so much as wondrous. Inside you, there is a quiet storyteller, working tirelessly to make one self out of many parts, so that you never feel like a committee, only like you. Tonight, that storyteller grows drowsy too, and the many soft voices of the mind drift toward the same slow rest. Philosophers have a name for the deepest mystery of the soul, and they call it the hard problem of consciousness. It is easy enough, in principle, to imagine explaining how the brain processes light, sound, and memory. What is genuinely hard, perhaps the hardest question we know, is why any of it should feel like something from the inside. Why is there a warm, private experience of being you, rather than just quiet machinery working in the dark? A camera can register red, but does it feel the redness? You do. That inner glow of experience, the simple fact that there is something it is like to be you, has resisted every explanation. Some thinkers believe science will one day solve it. Others suspect it may be a mystery of a different kind entirely. Either way, it means the soul, or whatever we wish to call this inner light, is not a foolish or primitive idea. It points straight at the deepest unsolved question about ourselves, the one you are quietly living inside at this very moment. One famous thinker of the modern age was so convinced the soul was real that he tried to find the exact spot where it touched the body. He believed the mind and the body were two entirely different things, one made of thought, one made of matter, and yet somehow they clearly worked together. So he searched for a meeting point and settled on a small structure deep in the center of the brain, in part because it seemed to be single rather than paired. There, he imagined, the immaterial soul reached into the physical machine. Science later moved past this particular answer, but the question he wrestled with has never fully gone away. How does the felt inner world of experience connect to the wet physical stuff of the brain? His guess was wrong in its details, yet brave in its honesty. He looked at the strange fact that we are both thinking selves and physical bodies, and he refused to pretend it was simple. It is not simple. It remains one of the tender riddles we carry. More than a century ago, a doctor tried to weigh the human soul, and the story that grew from it has never quite faded. He believed that if the soul was a real substance, it might have a small weight, and that a body might grow lighter at the moment of death. He reported a tiny loss, and a number attached itself to the idea, the notion that the soul weighs a small fraction of an ounce. It became a piece of folklore repeated ever since. But the truth is gentler and more honest. The experiment was tiny, imperfect, and never reliably repeated. Scientists do not regard it as evidence of anything. There is no measured weight of the soul, and yet the story endures, not because it is true, but because of what it reveals about us. We so wished to prove that the soul was real that someone reached for a scale. The longing was sincere, even if the answer never came. Some questions, it seems, refuse to be weighed. The word soul lives a rich second life in our music and our everyday speech, far from any question of the afterlife. We speak of soulful singing, of music with soul, of a soulful glance. We call a place soulless when it feels cold and empty of feeling. An entire kind of music took the word for its name, built on deep emotion and honest expression. In all of this, the soul has come to mean something we recognize instantly, even without defining it. The presence of real feeling, of genuine warmth, of a human being fully present in what they do. It is interesting that the same word we use for the deepest metaphysical mystery is also the word we reach for to describe a heartfelt song. Perhaps they are not so far apart. In both cases, soul points to the sense that there is someone truly there, alive and feeling, behind the voice or behind the eyes. That quiet presence is what we love in music and in one another. Music has a strange power to reach what we might call the soul, and science is only beginning to understand why. A few notes of a song from long ago can bring back an entire season of your life, complete with its feelings, faster than any thought. Music seems to reach memory and emotion by a very direct path, bypassing the slower work of reasoning. This is why a melody can move us to tears before we even know why, and why songs stay with people even when much else has faded. There is something about pattern and rhythm and rising tone that speaks to us beneath words. Ancient peoples used music in nearly every sacred moment, at births, at funerals, at the turning of the seasons, as if they sensed it could touch the spirit directly. Perhaps they were not wrong. When a piece of music moves through you and something inside lifts or aches, you are feeling one of the oldest and gentlest mysteries of the self, the way sound alone can stir the deepest waters. A single taste or scent can call up a flood of memory so complete that it feels like time travel. And this too tells us something about the self. A familiar smell from childhood, a particular food, the scent of rain on warm stone, can suddenly return an entire lost moment with startling force. The reason lies partly in how our sense of smell connects very closely to the parts of the brain that handle memory and emotion. These involuntary memories arrive unbidden, whole and vivid, as if they had been waiting all along. They remind us that the self is not only what we can call to mind on purpose. Beneath the surface, an enormous reservoir of experience is quietly held, ready to rise at the faintest trigger. You are far larger inside than you usually feel. Every scent you have ever known, every taste, is folded somewhere within you. It is a soft thought that so much of your life is still there, kept safe below the reach of ordinary remembering. When we lose someone we love, many people continue to feel their presence in gentle ways, and this experience is so common that researchers have a quiet name for it. They speak of continuing bonds, the ways the living keep a relationship with the dead alive within them. A person may talk to someone who has passed, feel them near in certain places, or sense their approval or comfort at important moments. For a long time, this was misunderstood, but it is now recognized as a natural and often healthy part of grief. The bond does not simply end. It changes form and continues inside us. Whatever we believe about the soul, this much is real. Those we have loved leave a lasting imprint, a voice we can still hear, a presence we can still feel. In a sense, they live on in the shape they carved into us. This is one of the truest ways the dead remain with the living, not as ghosts, but as a permanent and tender part of who we have become. People who face great danger or extreme solitude sometimes report a strange and comforting experience, the sudden sense of an unseen companion beside them. Explorers lost in frozen wastes, climbers in trouble on high peaks, sailors adrift alone, have described feeling that someone was there, guiding or steadying them, though they were plainly by themselves. This felt presence is common enough that it has been studied and named. It seems the mind, under enormous strain, can generate the powerful sensation of company, perhaps as a way of coping, of not being alone in a crisis. It connects to those same brain regions that give us our sense of where the self is located. This does not lessen the wonder of it. It shows that even at our most desperate and isolated, some deep part of us reaches for companionship and can conjure it. The soul, whatever it is, does not seem built for loneliness. Even in the emptiest places, it insists on the feeling of another quiet presence near. The sense that you are freely choosing your own actions, that a self inside is steering the ship, is one of the most powerful feelings we have and one of the most debated. When you decide to lift your hand, it feels utterly clear that you, the inner self, willed it. Yet scientists studying the brain have found that the machinery of a movement can begin stirring before we are consciously aware of deciding. This has led to long and careful arguments about how free our choices truly are, and how much the felt self is a narrator explaining decisions already underway. These are deep waters, and thoughtful people disagree, but there is no need to resolve them tonight. Whatever the truth, the experience of choosing is a real and central part of being a self. You feel like an author of your life, and that feeling shapes everything you do. It is enough in this quiet hour simply to notice how strange and remarkable it is that a self can feel like it is choosing at all. Long before anyone spoke of brains and networks, people in nearly every culture described the soul using the language of light and warmth. The self was a flame, a spark, an inner fire that could be bright or dim. To be full of life was to burn warmly. To be near death was to have the flame flicker low. We still speak this way without noticing. We say a person is bright or dull, or that the light has gone out of someone's eyes, or that a face lit up with joy. This ancient link between the self and light runs so deep that it feels less like a metaphor and more like a memory. Perhaps it comes from the simple fact that the living are warm and the dead grow cold, or that awareness itself feels like an illumination, a lighting up of the dark world into experience. Whatever its source, the image is gentle and enduring. As you rest tonight, you can imagine your own quiet awareness as a soft flame, burning low and easy, safe from any wind. In the far north, the old stories imagined that a person held more than one soul, and that these different souls did different work. One might be the breath of life that kept the body warm. Another might be a free soul that could leave the body in dreams or trances and travel far away. Yet another might be tied to a person's name and fate. This idea of multiple souls, each with its own role, appears in many cultures around the world, not only in the North. It is a richer picture than our modern habit of imagining a single soul. It suggests that our ancestors were careful observers of the self, noticing that the part of us that breathes is not quite the part that dreams, which is not quite the part that carries our name and destiny. They divided the inner self the way we might divide a house into rooms, each with its own purpose. It is a spacious and thoughtful way to imagine a person, worth resting inside on a quiet night. Some traditions imagined the soul as a traveler on a long road, passing through the body the way a guest passes through an inn. In this gentle picture, the body is a temporary lodging, warm and welcome for a while, but never the true home of the self. The soul arrives, stays for the length of a life, and then continues onward. This image appears in the poetry and philosophy of many cultures, and there is a quiet comfort in it. It softens our grip on the passing worries of the day, reminding us that we are, in a sense, only visiting. It also lends a certain dignity to the body, which becomes not a prison, but a kind host, sheltering the self through its journey. Whether or not any soul truly travels beyond a single life, the image is a peaceful one to hold at night. You can imagine the day's cares as fellow travelers you will part from at the door, and the coming sleep as a quiet inn where the self may rest. Across the world, people have long felt that the eyes are a window to the soul, and there is a grain of real science hidden in this old saying. We are extraordinarily sensitive to one another's eyes. From infancy, we are drawn to them, reading in them attention, feeling, and intent. The tiny movements of the eyes and the widening or narrowing of their dark centers carry a surprising amount of information about a person's inner state, often more than they intend to reveal. So when we say, "the eyes show the soul," we are pointing at something true. Of all the parts of a face, the eyes tell us most about the living presence behind them, whether someone is warm or wary, present or distant, well or unwell. It is no wonder our ancestors felt that gazing into another's eyes was a way of meeting the self within. When you look into the eyes of someone you love, you really are reading the nearest thing we have to a window on their inner life. There is a quiet test that reveals whether a creature seems to recognize itself, and only a few animals appear to pass it. When some animals are shown their reflection, they eventually seem to understand that they are looking at themselves rather than another creature. A small handful of species have shown signs of this, including certain great apes and a few surprising others. Human children begin to show it somewhere in their second year of life, that gentle dawning of self-recognition. This does not mean other animals have no inner life. It simply marks one narrow window onto the sense of self, the ability to think of oneself as a self, an object one can reflect upon. It is humbling to realize that this awareness, which feels so basic to us, is rare in the living world. and that we ourselves were not born with it fully formed. Somewhere in your earliest years, quietly and without any memory of it, you first understood that the child in the mirror was you. It was one of the first soft arrivals of the self you now carry. A newborn does not yet seem to know where they end and the world begins, and watching the self slowly form in a child is one of the tender wonders of life. In the early weeks, an infant may not fully sense that their own hands belong to them, or that they are separate from the person holding them. Bit by bit, through touch and movement and countless small experiences, a sense of being a distinct self takes shape. The child learns the edges of their body, then the fact that others have their own hidden minds, then the long story of being a particular person with a name and a past. None of us remember this happening. The self assembled itself so gradually and so early that its beginnings are lost to us. Yet it means the you that feels so solid tonight was once soft and unformed, gathered slowly like light collecting at dawn. There is something moving in the thought that every person carrying a rich inner world once had to grow one, quietly, from almost nothing. The mind and the body speak to one another far more than we usually notice, and this deep conversation lies close to old ideas of the soul. When you feel dread, your stomach may tighten. When you feel love, warmth may spread through your chest. Embarrassment can flush the face without any command from your conscious will. These are not illusions. There are rich physical pathways connecting the thinking brain to the gut, the heart, and the rest of the body, carrying signals in both directions. Our ancestors, feeling these bodily echoes of emotion, naturally placed the soul in the belly, the heart, or the chest, because that is where feeling seems to live. And in a sense, they were tracing something real. The self is not sealed inside the skull. It ripples outward into the whole body, so that grief and joy and fear are felt in the flesh. As you settle now, you may notice your body softening along with your thoughts, the long conversation between mind and body quieting towards sleep. Belief itself can shape the body in measurable ways, a fact that would not have surprised our ancestors at all. When people are given a harmless treatment they trust, they sometimes feel genuinely better, and real changes can follow simply from the expectation of relief. Scientists study this carefully and call it by name. And while it has limits and should never replace true care, it points at something remarkable. The mind's expectations reach down into the body and can gently alter how we feel. This is a modern glimpse of an ancient intuition, that the spirit and the flesh are woven together, that hope and belief are not weightless things. It should be held responsibly, and it is no cure for serious ills. But as a window on the self, it is quietly astonishing. What you believe, what you expect, what you hope does not stay locked in the mind. It can move outward into the living body. One more sign that the self and the flesh are not two separate kingdoms, but one country. Your body keeps its own inner clock, and this rhythm shapes the self more than we realize. Deep within us, a kind of internal timekeeper follows the roughly daily cycle of light and dark, telling the body when to feel alert and when to grow drowsy. As night comes on, this quiet clock begins to shift the whole system toward rest, lowering the body's tempo, softening its energy, preparing it for sleep. The heaviness you may feel in your eyes right now is part of this ancient rhythm, older than any human idea about the soul. For all our talk of free minds and traveling spirits, we remain creatures of the turning earth, rising and resting with a cycle written deep in our cells. There is peace in surrendering to it. You do not have to summon sleep by force. Your own inner clock is already turning the lights down, gently and on schedule, the way it has done every night of your life. You need only let it. Even in deep rest, your body is quietly renewing itself, clearing away what is worn and rebuilding what is needed. Cells carry out a kind of gentle housekeeping, breaking down and recycling their own tired parts so that fresh ones can take their place. This quiet renewal goes on largely while you sleep, unseen and unfelt, keeping the vast machinery of the body in good repair. There is a soft poetry in it. As your mind lets go of the day, your body does not simply switch off. It turns inward to mend and refresh, tending itself with a patience you never have to think about. The self you wake into tomorrow will be, in small ways, remade during the night. This ancient process of renewal may be part of why sleep leaves us feeling restored, as if something in us has been quietly set right. You can rest more easily, knowing that letting go into sleep is not idleness. It is the time your body chooses to heal. The feeling of awe, that quiet expansion we feel before something vast, seems to gently loosen the grip of the self, and people have long sought it out. Standing beneath a night sky thick with stars, gazing across an ocean, or from a high mountain, many describe a sense of their small worries falling away, of the self growing quiet and light. Researchers who study awe find that it often makes people feel smaller in a good way, more connected to something larger, kinder, and less caught up in themselves. Our ancestors surely knew this, building their sacred places to inspire exactly such wonder, with high ceilings and long views and vast silences. Awe seems to be one of the ways the self can rest from the constant business of being itself. As you lie here in the dark, you might let a little of that spaciousness in, imagining the great quiet reaches of sky and sea and time, and letting your own cares grow small and soft against them. It is a peaceful place for the self to loosen its hold. Many old traditions taught that the truest way to know the soul was to make the mind quiet, and modern science has begun to notice why this might be. Practices of stillness and gentle attention, found across many cultures, aim to calm the endless chatter of the thinking mind. When researchers study people in such states, they often see the self-focused, busy network of the brain grow calmer and more settled. In these quiet moments, some describe the ordinary sense of a separate, bounded self softening at its edges, replaced by a feeling of openness and peace. Whatever one believes about the soul, there is something valuable here. The restless narrator inside us, always planning and remembering and comparing, can be allowed to rest. And in that rest, people across the ages have found a deep calm. You are drifting toward a version of that stillness now, as the busy self quiets and the mind grows spacious and soft. Sleep is, in its own way, the oldest and most natural stilling of the self we have. The old idea that a name holds part of a person's soul appears far beyond ancient Egypt, in cultures all around the world. In many traditions, a name was not just a label, but a real and powerful thing, closely bound to the identity and even the fate of the one who bore it. Some peoples kept a true name secret, sharing only a common name in daily life, to protect the deepest self from harm. To know someone's true name was to hold a kind of power over them. To give a child a name was a solemn act, sometimes tied to blessings and destiny. Even now, there is a quiet magic in our names. Hearing your own name spoken across a crowded room can catch your attention instantly, and being called by name by someone who loves you carries a warmth no other word does. Our names are among the first things given to us and among the last things spoken of us. They remain, as the ancients felt, closely tied to the self we carry. When someone loses a limb, they often still feel it, vividly present though it is gone. And this strange fact reveals how the self includes the body. A person may sense the missing hand, even feel it move or ache, long after it is no longer there. The reason lies in the brain, which holds a rich inner map of the whole body, and that map does not immediately update when a part is lost. This shows that your sense of your own body is not simply a report of the flesh. It is a construction the brain maintains, an inner image of the self as an embodied thing. In a quiet way, this connects to old ideas of the soul as a form or pattern that shapes the body. There truly is a kind of inner blueprint of you, held in the mind, so strong it can persist even when the matter is gone. As you rest, that inner map of your body softens too, the felt shape of you loosening gently as you drift toward sleep. The stomach and the brain are joined by such a rich web of nerves that some have gently called the gut a second brain. And this too touches the old question of where the self lives. A vast network of nerve cells lines the digestive system, in constant conversation with the mind. This is why strong feelings can settle in the belly, why we speak of a gut feeling or of knowing something in our gut. Our ancestors, placing the soul or the seat of feeling in the belly, were noticing something real about how emotion lives in the body. The self, it turns out, is not neatly stored in one place. It is spread through us, felt in the gut, the heart, the chest, the whole living frame. Tonight, as calm settles over you, you may feel it not only in your thoughts, but lower down, a loosening in the belly, a softening through the middle of you. The whole body is letting go together the way it always meant to. The heart is not only a pump, but a kind of quiet metronome, and its steady rhythm has shaped human ideas of the self since the beginning. From before birth, the heartbeat is the constant background of our existence, the first sound we ever know, felt as much as heard. Throughout life, it keeps its patient time beneath everything we do, speeding with fear or love, slowing in calm and rest. It is no wonder that people across the ages felt the heart held the essence of who they were. Its beat is so tied to being alive that stillness of the heart became the very mark of death. Even now, with all we know of the brain, we place our hand on the chest to speak of our deepest self. As you lie here, you might notice that quiet inner drum, still keeping its faithful time, slowing gently now as calm deepens. It has beaten for you every moment of your life without once asking for your attention. Let its slow rhythm carry you softly down. Before people settled on the heart or the brain, some ancient cultures believed the soul, or the seat of life, lived in the liver, and they took this idea very seriously. In several old civilizations, the liver was considered so tied to the spirit that priests would examine the livers of animals to read omens and glimpse the will of the gods. The organ's rich supply of blood and its central role in the body made it seem a likely home for the life force. It is a good reminder of how differently people have located the self over the ages. The heart, the head, the breath, the blood, the liver, all have taken their turn as the imagined seat of the soul. Each guess was reasonable given what people could observe. Together they show a long and patient human search, culture after culture asking the same question in the dark. Where inside this body does the real me actually live? We are still, in our own way, asking it tonight. The ancient Greeks often placed thought and strong feeling not in the head, but in the midriff, in the area around the diaphragm and lungs. They had a word for this region of the self, and traces of it survive in our language in unexpected places. They felt that courage, passion, and even the movement of the mind seemed to stir in the chest, where the breath and the heartbeat live. When you take a deep breath before speaking, or feel your breathing change with emotion, you can sense why they thought this way. The center of a person seemed to sit where the breath rises and falls, just below the heart. It is another example of our ancestors reading the self directly from the body, trusting the places where feeling could actually be felt. As you breathe slowly now, low and easy, you are quieting the very region the Greeks once believed held the moving soul. Let each breath settle a little deeper into that ancient center of the self. Many old traditions taught that the life and even the soul was carried in the blood, and this belief ran deep. Blood was so clearly tied to life that to lose too much of it was to die. It carried warmth, It flushed the skin with feeling. It seemed to hold the very vitality of a person. So across many cultures, blood became sacred, bound up with ideas of life, kinship, and spirit. We still speak of blood relatives, of something being in our blood, of bad blood between people, all echoes of a time when blood and soul were nearly one. Science now understands blood as the body's great river, carrying breath and nourishment to every cell. But the old intuition was not wrong to sense its importance. This quiet red tide moving through you even now is one of the surest signs of the living self. As you rest, it flows on faithfully, warm and steady, tending every corner of you without a single thought required. Nearly every culture in human history has told stories of ghosts, the spirits of the dead who linger among the living. The details differ enormously, yet the basic belief appears almost everywhere, which is striking in itself. It suggests that the sense of a departed person's continued presence is deeply rooted in the human mind. And there may be a gentle reason for this. After someone dies, the living often continue to feel them nearby, to half expect them in familiar rooms, to hear their voice in memory so clearly it seems real. The mind, so used to that person, does not let go all at once. Our ancestors, feeling this, naturally imagined that some part of the dead remained. Whatever the truth of ghosts, the experience behind the belief is real and human. The dead do linger, in the shape of the habits, expectations, and love they left in us.
It is one of the ways grief slowly does its work, and one of the tender reasons ghost stories have followed us through every age. In many cultures, the dead were not thought to leave entirely, but to become ancestors, watchful and present, still part of the family. People spoke to them, honored them, and felt their guidance in daily life. Far from being frightening, these ancestral spirits were often a source of comfort and belonging, a sense that one was held within a long line of those who came before. This way of imagining the dead is one of the most widespread on earth. It softens the loneliness of death by keeping the departed within the circle of the living. And it carries a quiet wisdom. We truly are shaped by those who came before us, carrying their features, their sayings, their habits, sometimes without knowing it. In honoring our ancestors, people kept alive the felt truth that we are not isolated selves, but links in a long chain reaching back through time.
As you rest tonight, you carry within you countless people you never met, whose lives quietly made yours possible. In many parts of the world, people believed that spirit lived not only in humans, but in everything, in trees, rivers, mountains, animals, and stones. This way of seeing the world imagines a living presence within all things, a kind of soul in the whole of nature. Great trees were often felt to be especially alive with spirit, and some cultures pictured a vast world tree whose branches and roots held the different worlds of existence together. To walk through such a world was to move among countless quiet presences, none of them truly dead matter. There is something restful in this old vision. It fills the world with company and meaning so that a person is never quite alone, even in a forest at night. Whatever we believe, it invites a gentler way of moving through the world, treating the living things around us with a little more care and wonder.
Tonight, you might imagine the trees outside standing quietly in the dark, patient and alive, keeping their own slow watch while you sleep. There is a curious phenomenon where a place, a word, or a moment feels intensely familiar, as if you have lived it before, though you know you have not. This fleeting sense of having been here already visits most people now and then, and it has fascinated us for a very long time. Some old beliefs took it as a faint memory of a past life, a ripple of the soul's long history. Science offers gentler explanations, suggesting a small hiccup in how the brain files experience, so that the present moment is briefly tagged as a memory even as it happens. Whatever its cause, the feeling is a strange and quiet reminder of how much the sense of self depends on the smooth working of memory.
When that machinery slips, just for a heartbeat, the ordinary present takes on an uncanny glow. It shows how delicately our sense of time and self is stitched together, and how much wonder can hide inside a single, unremarkable moment. Sometimes in a dream, we suddenly realize we are dreaming, and in that moment, something remarkable happens to the sense of self. The dreamer becomes aware within the dream, able to notice the strange logic of it, sometimes even to shape it gently. People have described these lucid dreams for a very long time, and they raise a fascinating question about who exactly is aware inside the sleeping mind. Part of you has drifted into the wild landscape of the dream, and yet part of you can wake to the fact that it is a dream, all while the body sleeps on. It hints at how layered the self really is, how awareness can fold back on itself even in sleep. Our ancestors, watching the mysteries of dreaming, felt sure the soul was doing something profound in the night. In a way, they were right. The sleeping mind is a rich and strange country, and the self that wanders there is capable of surprising depths, even a quiet kind of waking within the dream. When people become fully absorbed in something they love, the sense of self can quietly disappear, and this loss of self is one of the sweetest experiences we know. Musicians deep in playing, artists at their work, athletes in motion, or anyone lost in a task that fits them just right, often report that time and the self seem to fall away. There is only the doing, smooth and effortless, with no anxious inner voice standing apart to watch and judge. Researchers who study this state find it deeply satisfying, a time when the usual chatter of the self grows silent. It is interesting that some of our happiest moments are precisely the ones where the self loosens its grip and we forget, for a while, to be self-conscious at all. Perhaps the constant narrating self, useful as it is, can also be a weight, and there is joy in setting it down. Sleep offers its own version of this release, the gentlest of all, where the watchful self quietly steps aside and lets you simply rest. Certain deep experiences, sought by mystics across the ages, involve a striking softening of the boundary between self and world, sometimes called a dissolving of the ordinary self. In these rare states, whether reached through long practice of stillness or moments of profound wonder, people describe the usual sense of being a separate, bounded individual, gently melting into a feeling of unity with everything around them. Researchers studying such experiences find that the brain's self-focused network can quiet dramatically in these moments. Those who pass through them often come away calmer, kinder, and less afraid, describing it as among the most meaningful experiences of their lives. It suggests that the hard shell of the separate self, so central to daily life, is not the only way to be. Beneath it, some deeper openness may wait. Our ancestors sensed this and built entire spiritual paths around it. Whatever it means, it hints that the self is more flexible and mysterious than it usually feels, capable of expanding far beyond its ordinary edges. Twins have always fascinated us, and in many old cultures, they stirred deep beliefs about the soul. To see two people sharing one face seemed to challenge the idea that each self was singular and unique. Some traditions held twins to be specially blessed, others treated them with awe or unease, and many wove them into their myths as a pair of linked spirits. Even the idea of a double, a second self who might appear as a sign or omen, haunted the imagination of many peoples. Behind all this lies a genuine puzzle about identity. What makes you singularly you if another can share your very face? Modern science shows that even identical twins, alike in so many ways, grow into distinct people with their own inner lives, shaped by their own experiences. The self, it seems, is never merely a copy. Each person becomes irreducibly themselves. Our ancestors, marveling at twins, were touching one of the quiet mysteries we still feel, the strange, singular fact of being one particular self and no other. In some cultures, sickness of the spirit was imagined as a kind of soul loss, a belief that part of the self could wander away or be frightened out of the body. A person who grew listless, withdrawn, or deeply sad might be thought to have lost a piece of their soul, and healers would perform gentle rituals to call it home. It is easy to smile at this from a distance, yet there is something knowing in it. We still speak of feeling not quite ourselves, of losing a part of ourselves in grief, of being called back to life by love or care. These old healers understood, in their own language, that the self can feel diminished and can be gently restored, often through ceremony, attention, and the warmth of a community that will not let a person drift too far. Whatever the truth of wandering souls, the care behind the belief was real. To notice that someone has grown distant and to reach out and call them gently back is a very old and very human kind of love. The people of the Old North imagined that a person might be accompanied through life by a kind of guardian spirit, a following soul that walked unseen beside them. Some believed this companion could take the shape of an animal, appearing in dreams or at moments of great importance. Others spoke of a personal fortune or luck that was almost a living thing, passed down through families, shaping a person's fate. These were not simple ideas. They imagined the self as reaching beyond the visible body, trailing a spirit companion and a thread of inherited fortune. There is a certain comfort in the image of a following soul, a quiet presence that keeps pace with you through every season of your life, never quite seen, but always near. Whatever we believe, most of us know the feeling of being accompanied, whether by the memory of those who love us or by some steadying sense within. As you rest tonight, you might imagine such a gentle companion keeping watch, patient and unhurried, at the edge of the dark. Every atom in your body was forged long ago in the hearts of stars, and this is not poetry but plain physics. The carbon in your cells, the oxygen you breathe, the iron in your blood, all of it was made in the fiery cores of ancient stars and scattered across space when those stars died. That drifting material gathered, over unimaginable time, into new worlds and eventually into living things, into you. So the old traditions that linked the soul to the stars were reaching, in their way, toward a real truth. We are quite literally made of stardust, of matter cooked in stellar furnaces billions of years ago. There is a deep peace in this thought on a quiet night. The same elements that make the distant lights in the sky make the hand resting on the blanket, the slow breath in your chest, the mind softly drifting now toward sleep. You are not separate from the vast universe you sometimes gaze up at. You are a small, warm, thinking piece of it, briefly awake. Some thinkers today wonder whether the self is less a thing than a pattern, closer to a melody than to an object. A song is not the paper it is written on, nor any single instrument, but a pattern that can move from one to another and remain itself. Perhaps, they suggest, the self is something like this, a pattern of memory, habit, and awareness carried by the changing matter of the brain and body. This gentle idea sits interestingly close to some ancient views of the soul as a form rather than a substance. It would mean that what makes you yourself is not the particular atoms which come and go, but the enduring shape of the pattern they carry. It is a soft and spacious way to think of the self, neither purely physical nor floating free, but something like a tune played on the instrument of the body. As you drift toward sleep, that quiet melody of you plays on softly, needing no effort from you at all to keep its own true shape. In the hazy border between waking and sleep, the mind produces strange and gentle visions, and this drifting state has fascinated people for as long as we have slept. As you begin to fall asleep, thoughts loosen from logic, images float up unbidden, and you may see soft shapes, hear faint sounds, or feel yourself falling or floating. This threshold, neither fully awake nor truly dreaming, is where many of the mind's most creative and mysterious moments happen. Our ancestors, passing through this same doorway every night, surely felt the soul beginning its nightly departure. You may be entering it now, that quiet passage where the ordinary self starts to come apart at the edges, where thoughts turn to images and the grip of the day finally loosens. There is nothing to fear in this soft unraveling. It is the natural beginning of sleep, a place every human being has visited countless times. Let the images come and go as they please. You do not need to follow them. Just let yourself drift. Across the world and across the centuries, people have described a frightening experience of waking unable to move, sometimes sensing a presence in the room. And this strange event shaped countless beliefs about spirits. In this state, the mind wakes before the body's sleeping stillness has lifted, so a person lies briefly aware but unable to stir. In the confusion, the mind can conjure vivid figures and a heavy sense of presence. Nearly every culture has stories born from this experience, of night visitors and spirits that sit upon the sleeper. Science now understands it as a natural, harmless overlap between sleep and waking, unsettling but not dangerous. Yet knowing this, we can feel real sympathy for our ancestors who met this experience without explanation and understandably filled it with spirits. It is a striking example of how the ordinary workings of the sleeping brain, mysterious and a little eerie, gave rise to some of humanity's most enduring beliefs about the soul and the unseen. You cannot remember being a baby, and this gentle blank at the start of every life is stranger than it seems. Most people recall almost nothing from their earliest years, though those years were full of experience, learning, and feeling. The very time when the self was first forming is lost to memory, as if the record only begins once the self is already well underway. Scientists have several careful ideas about why this happens, tied to how the growing brain builds and stores memory. But the effect is quietly profound. Each of us began in a fog we can never revisit, cared for and shaped in ways we will never recall. The self you know reaches back only so far, and beyond that lies a tender darkness where you were becoming yourself. It gives the whole question of the soul a certain humility. We do not even remember our own beginnings. We simply find ourselves already here, already someone, gazing back at a horizon of memory that fades softly into the unknown. Perhaps the most extraordinary thing about the human mind is that it can imagine the inner life of another, and this quiet power is the root of all our kindness. You know, without being told, that the people around you have their own thoughts, feelings, and private worlds, as real and vivid to them as yours is to you. Children develop this understanding gradually, learning that others see the world through different eyes. It is such a natural ability that we forget how remarkable it is. Each of us is locked inside a single point of view, yet we can reach across the gap and picture what it is like to be someone else. This is where compassion begins, and love, and every act of care. Our ancestors, feeling the reality of other souls, built their whole moral world upon it. When you feel for another person, when their sorrow or joy becomes a little bit your own, you are performing one of the deepest feats the self is capable of, quietly touching another inner life across the lonely distance between minds. Most people carry on a quiet conversation with themselves inside their own heads, a running inner voice. Yet not everyone experiences this in the same way. For many, thought arrives as a kind of silent speech, words spoken in the mind, planning, remembering, and reflecting. It can feel like the very sound of the self. Yet researchers have found that some people report little or no inner voice at all, thinking instead in images, feelings, or ways harder to describe. This gentle variety is a good reminder that the inner life is not the same for everyone, and that the self can be experienced in more than one way. The voice in your head, if you have one, is one of the closest companions you will ever know, present in nearly every waking moment. As sleep approaches, you may notice it beginning to quiet, its words growing slower and fewer, until the mind falls into a softer, wordless kind of rest. That quieting of the inner voice is one of the surest signs that sleep is drawing near. A smile is understood everywhere on earth, and this simple fact tells us something warm about the shared human self. People raised in utterly different cultures, speaking unrelated languages, still smile when happy and recognize a smile instantly for what it is. The basic expressions of feeling, joy, sadness, fear, surprise, appear across all human societies, written on the face in the same universal language. Even those born unable to see have been observed to smile and frown much as everyone does. This suggests that beneath all our differences lies a common human nature, a shared inner life expressed in a shared set of signs. Our ancestors, meeting strangers from far away, could still read the language of the face, could still recognize another feeling self behind unfamiliar words. It is a hopeful thought on a quiet night. However divided the world can seem, the deepest signals of the human heart are shared by all of us. A smile from a stranger needs no translation and never has. Tears are a mystery almost unique to human beings, and they sit close to the heart of what we mean by the soul. Many animals produce tears to protect the eye, but we appear to be the only creatures who weep from feeling, whether from grief, from joy, or from being deeply moved. Scientists are still exploring why we do this, why strong emotion should spill over into water on the face. Yet across all cultures, tears are understood as a sign of the inner self overflowing, a message that words cannot carry. To weep with someone, or to be moved to tears by beauty, is among the most human things we do. Our ancestors treated tears as sacred, gathering them, honoring them, seeing in them the visible trace of the soul stirred to its depths. There is no shame in them. They are simply the body's honest answer when feeling grows too large to hold. In a life full of things we cannot say, tears speak for the self when nothing else can. Laughter, like tears, seems to rise from somewhere deep in the self, and it is one of the oldest bonds between people. Long before language as we know it, our distant ancestors almost certainly laughed together, sharing a wordless signal of ease, safety, and joy. Laughter is contagious, spreading through a group and drawing people closer, knitting them into something warmer than they were alone. It arrives on its own, often when we least expect it, bypassing our careful control the way a sneeze or a yawn does. In this, it feels like a message from a more spontaneous self, one not entirely ruled by the thinking mind. To share real laughter with another person is to touch souls lightly, to say without words that we are at ease together. It is one of the great gifts of being human, this ability to be overtaken by delight and to carry others along with us. Even the memory of shared laughter can warm a quiet night, a small light left glowing from the company of those we love. As people grow old, the body changes greatly, yet most feel that the same self they have always been still looks out from within, and this quiet constancy is deeply moving. Many older people describe the strange experience of feeling much the same inside as they did in youth, even as the mirror shows a long life written on the face. The child they were, the young person, the one they are now, all feel like the same continuous self, threaded together by an unbroken sense of being. This is perhaps the closest thing we have to the old idea of an enduring soul, this feeling of a single self persisting through every stage of a changing life. Bodies age, roles shift, whole worlds come and go, and still that inner sense of you remains. There is comfort in it. Whatever the years bring, something at the center holds steady, the same quiet awareness that has been with you since your earliest days and will keep you company to the end. Many of the world's great traditions imagine the soul not as a separate thing at all, but as a drop that will one day return to a vast ocean. In this beautiful vision, the individual self is like a single drop of water lifted from the sea, feeling itself distinct for a while before finally rejoining the whole from which it came. The separateness we feel in this view is real but temporary, a brief adventure of individuality within something far larger. Whether one takes this as truth or as poetry, it offers a gentle way to think about the self and its ending. Nothing is truly lost when a drop returns to the ocean. It simply becomes part of the greater water again. On a quiet night, there is deep peace in this image. Your small, separate self, working and worrying through its days, may be only a temporary shape of something vast and calm to which it quietly belongs. You can let a little of that belonging in now and rest more easily inside it. All across the world, people set aside special days to remember the dead, and these gentle festivals share a striking family resemblance. In one land, families gather at graves with flowers and food, telling stories and even laughing, welcoming the memory of the departed. In another, lanterns are floated on water or hung in doorways to guide the spirits home. In yet another, candles are lit and quiet vigils kept as autumn turns toward winter. These customs arose independently among peoples who never met, yet they echo one another closely. Everywhere, the living set aside time to turn back toward those they have lost, to feed the memory, to light a path, to say that the dead are not forgotten. There is something profoundly comforting in this shared human habit. Grief, it seems, does not want only to mourn. It wants to remember warmly, to keep a place set. Whatever we believe about the soul, these days of remembrance show love refusing to let go entirely, all around the world in almost the same way. Birds have long been imagined as carriers of the soul, and this gentle idea took wing in cultures far apart. Perhaps because a bird can rise into the sky, into the heights people so often placed the spirit, many traditions pictured the soul as a bird, or believed a bird might carry it away at death. Doves, owls, and other birds appeared again and again as messengers between the living and the dead. The Egyptians pictured one part of the soul as a bird with a human face, free to leave the tomb and return. It is easy to feel the pull of this image. A bird lifting from a branch and vanishing into the open sky is a natural picture for the spirit leaving the body, light and suddenly free. When you see birds wheeling high overhead, you are watching the very creatures our ancestors chose to carry their deepest hopes about what happens to the self. There is a soft beauty in that old association, still alive whenever we watch a bird disappear into the blue. There is a small light in the northern sky that has guided travelers for thousands of years, and it became bound up with the passage of the soul. The steady star that seems to hold still while all the others turn around it gave wanderers a fixed point in the dark, a way home across trackless land and sea. It is no surprise that many peoples wove this constant light into their beliefs about death, imagining it as a marker on the soul's long passage, or a doorway, or a place of rest. A star that never sets, never wanders, became a natural symbol for something eternal amid all that changes. On a clear night, that same faithful light still hangs in the north, exactly where our distant ancestors saw it, exactly where sailors and pilgrims found it. There is comfort in such constancy. As you rest, you might picture that quiet, unwavering star keeping its place through all the turning of the sky, a small, steady light watching over the long night. We cannot tickle ourselves, and this odd little fact reveals something deep about how the self is built. Try as you might, your own fingers cannot surprise you the way another person's can, because the brain quietly predicts your own movements and dampens the sensation. It knows that the touch is coming from you, and so it softens it. This is part of a remarkable system that constantly distinguishes self from other, your own actions from the actions of the world. It is how you know that the hand moving is yours, that the voice speaking is yours, that you are the author of your own motions. When this quiet self-monitoring slips, the sense of self can grow strange and uncertain. So a failed attempt to tickle yourself is a tiny demonstration of one of the brain's most important tasks, drawing the line between you and everything that is not you. Even in something as small and playful as a tickle, the self is quietly at work, keeping track of where it ends and the world begins. You have a sense you rarely think about, one that tells you where your body is even with your eyes closed, and it is essential to the feeling of being an embodied self. Right now, without looking, you know the position of your hands, the angle of your legs, the shape your body makes in the dark. This quiet inner sense, gathered from countless signals within the muscles and joints, gives you a constant felt map of your own body. It works so smoothly that we forget it exists, yet without it, we would feel lost inside our own flesh. It is a large part of why you feel located in a body at all, why the self seems to inhabit a particular shape in space. As you lie still now, this gentle sense reports the soft weight of you against the bed, the easy position of your limbs, the whole quiet presence of your body at rest. You do not need to check it or command it. It simply holds you, letting you feel exactly where you are so you can safely let go. Long before birth, a baby can hear, and the first sounds a person ever knows are the voice and heartbeat of their mother. In the warm dark before the world, the developing child is surrounded by these steady sounds, the muffled music of a voice, the constant rhythm of a beating heart. Newborns show that they remember, turning toward the voice they knew before they were born, calmed by rhythms that echo the ones they first heard within. It means our very first experience of another self came through sound, in the dark, before we ever opened our eyes. The human voice and the heartbeat were our earliest companions, the first signs that we were not alone. There is a tender continuity in this. All our lives, a loved one's voice can soothe us, and a steady heartbeat felt against our own can bring a deep and wordless calm. We are, from the very beginning, creatures who are comforted by the nearness of another. That gentle truth was written into us before we ever drew breath. It is often said that hearing may be among the last of the senses to fade at the end of life, and there is a quiet tenderness in this. Those who care for the dying have long felt that a person may still hear the voices around them, even when they can no longer respond, even in their final hours. Some research gently supports the idea that the brain's response to sound can persist late into the process of dying. This is why those who sit with the dying are so often encouraged to keep speaking softly, to say the loving things, to let the familiar voices fill the room. Whatever we believe about the soul, this offers a simple and profound comfort. It suggests that no one need leave the world in silence, that the last thing to reach a fading person may be the sound of being loved. It is one of the gentlest facts we know, and one of the most human, that love spoken aloud may follow us right to the very edge. Now and then, near the very end of a long illness, a person who has seemed lost may briefly return, clear and present and themselves again, and those who witness it never forget it. Caregivers and families sometimes describe a final period of surprising lucidity, when someone who had drifted far away seems to come back for a little while, recognizing loved ones, speaking gently, sharing a last quiet clarity before the end. Science does not fully understand why this happens, and researchers study it with care and respect, but its effect on those present is profound. It can feel like a final gift, a last chance to say what needs saying, a glimpse of the whole self shining through one more time. Whatever its cause, it reminds us how mysterious the relationship between the self and the failing body truly remains. Even at the threshold, the self can surprise us. It is one more reason for humility before the deep questions we are exploring, and one more reason for tenderness toward those near the end. For all that science has learned about the brain and the self, the deepest question remains open, and there is a kind of peace in admitting it honestly. We understand a great deal now about how the brain builds our sense of being someone, how memory threads our days together, how the body and mind speak to one another. Yet why all this activity should give rise to an inner life at all, why there is a warm, private experience of being you, remains genuinely unsolved. This is not a failure. It is simply where the frontier of understanding lies. The soul, or whatever we choose to call this inner light, sits right at the edge of what we know. Our ancestors met this mystery with stories of breath and stars and traveling spirits. We meet it with careful study and honest wonder. Both are ways of standing before the same quiet question. There is no shame in not having the final answer. Some mysteries are large enough to rest inside, and this may be the largest and gentlest of them all. Whatever the soul may or may not be, one thing is certain, that the effect a person has on the world does not end when they do. The kindness you show ripples outward into others, who carry it on in ways you will never see. The words you say are remembered, repeated, passed down. The love you give shapes the people around you, who go on to shape others still. In this very real sense, every life reaches far beyond its own span, sending gentle waves through the lives it touches. Our ancestors, believing the soul lived on, may have been pointing towards something true in a way they did not expect. We do continue in the countless small marks we leave on the people and the world around us. Long after a person is gone, their warmth can still be felt, moving quietly through the generations. It is perhaps the most certain kind of immortality there is, and it costs nothing but to live gently and love well. That much, at least, we can be sure endures. There is a quiet comfort in remembering that every human being who has ever lived has faced the same great mystery you are pondering tonight. Kings and shepherds, scholars and children, people in every land and every age have all wondered what they truly are, where the self comes from, and where it goes. They have all felt the strange warmth of being alive and aware, and all have known that it would one day end. In this, you are joined to the whole of humanity, past and present, held within a single, long conversation that has never stopped. You are not alone with these thoughts. You are one more soul in an endless company of souls, all gazing at the same soft horizon. There is peace in that belonging. Whatever answers we do or do not find, we seek them together across all the centuries. And tonight, you can set the seeking gently down, knowing the question will keep, and that you are held within a very old and very human circle, all of us wandering quietly in the dark. Sometimes a piece of music, a sweeping view, or a moment of deep feeling sends a wave of tingles across the skin, and this small physical thrill sits close to the mystery of the self. Those sudden shivers, the soft rising of the hairs on your arms, come from an ancient system in the body, one that once helped our furred ancestors respond to cold or danger. Now it answers something else entirely: the touch of beauty and meaning. A soaring voice, a turning phrase, a memory that catches you off guard, and the body responds with a quiet ripple of feeling. It is a lovely thing that the same reflex which once bristled against the cold now bristles against beauty. It shows how deeply the inner life is woven into the body, how a moment of the soul stirred can be felt on the surface of the skin. When music moves you enough to raise a shiver, you are feeling the self and the body answer as one, in a language older than words. A yawn spreads from person to person almost without fail, and this small, contagious act quietly reveals how connected our inner lives really are. See someone yawn, or even read about yawning, and you may feel the urge rise in yourself. This gentle spreading seems tied to our deep tendency to mirror one another, the same tendency that lets us feel a flicker of another's sadness or catch the mood of a room. We are far more woven together than we usually notice, our bodies and feelings quietly echoing those around us. Our ancestors, so attuned to the group, lived by this invisible thread of shared feeling. It is part of what makes us social creatures, able to sense and share one another's states almost automatically. So even something as humble as a yawn is a small sign of our connection, one self quietly answering another. You may even feel the pull of one now, a soft signal from the body that rest is drawing near, and that you are, as always, gently linked to everyone around you. There is a particular feeling attached to the idea of home, and it reaches deeper into the self than the walls of any house. Home is not only a place, but a feeling of safety, belonging, and rest. A sense that here you may finally let your guard down and simply be. For much of human history, the hearth at the center of the home, with its small, warm fire, was the very heart of family life, the place people gathered against the dark. Something in us still longs for that circle of warmth and safety, that sense of a place where we are known and welcome. Even people far from any house carry a picture of home within them, a warmth they return to in memory. It is one of the soul's quiet needs, this longing for a place to belong.
As you rest tonight, wherever you are, you might let this spot become a kind of home for a while, a small, safe circle of warmth in the dark, where the self can finally set everything down. Your skin is the boundary where the self meets the world, and this soft border is far more alive than we usually think. Every touch, every warmth and coolness, every gentle pressure reaches you through this vast and sensitive surface. It is the largest organ of the body, and it is how we first know the difference between ourselves and everything else, from the very first moments of life when a newborn is held against warm skin. Touch is one of our deepest needs, so essential that we can feel starved without it. A hand on the shoulder, an embrace, the simple comfort of contact speaks to the self in a way words cannot.
Our ancestors knew the power of touch to soothe and to heal, to say without speaking that someone is not alone. As you lie here now, you might notice the soft touch of the blanket, the gentle weight of it, the quiet comfort of being held by the simplest things. Through the skin, even in stillness, the self is being gently reminded that it is safe. When people who are deeply close spend time together, their very heartbeats can begin to fall into rhythm, and this quiet synchrony is a beautiful sign of connection. Researchers have found that in moments of closeness, whether between loved ones sharing a calm space or people moving and breathing together, the body's rhythms can gently align. Hearts may slow or quicken in time, breathing may fall into step. It is as if the boundaries between two selves soften slightly, and for a while they move as one. Our ancestors surely felt this in shared song, in dance, in the simple closeness of sitting together by the fire. It suggests that the self, so often imagined as sealed and separate, is in truth deeply open to others, ready to fall into harmony with those it loves. There is comfort in knowing we are built for such closeness, that being near someone dear can literally steady the rhythm of the body. Connection is not only a feeling, it is written into the very beat of the heart. Across the world, people have looked to the moon and felt it touched the soul, and its quiet light has filled our beliefs for as long as we have gazed upward. The moon changes and returns, waning into darkness and then slowly filling again, a gentle rhythm that seemed to mirror the cycles of life, death, and renewal. Many cultures wove it into their ideas of the spirit and the afterlife, imagining the souls of the dead journeying to it or resting in its soft glow. Its cool, calm light, so different from the harsh brightness of day, has always seemed to belong to the world of dreams and rest and quiet mysteries. Even now, the sight of the moon riding high over a sleeping landscape can stir something wordless and deep. On this quiet night, that same old moon may be somewhere above you, casting the same gentle light our distant ancestors watched, keeping its patient company over every soul that has ever tried to sleep beneath it. In many languages, sleep and death are spoken of as close cousins, and the phrase "to rest in peace" carries this ancient kinship. Sleep, with its stillness and its letting go, has always seemed like a gentle rehearsal for the final rest, a small nightly practice at surrendering the busy self. Our ancestors noticed this resemblance and drew comfort from it, imagining death as a long and peaceful sleep rather than a terror. There is wisdom in the comparison. Each night we release our grip on the day, we let the self loosen and drift, we trust that we will wake again. This nightly letting go is one of the most natural things we do, and it need hold no fear. Falling asleep is a soft act of trust, practiced every night of our lives. As you approach it now, you can let that trust carry you, surrendering the day the way you have thousands of times before, knowing that this gentle release is among the most familiar and peaceful acts a human being ever performs. Every human voice is unique, as distinct as a fingerprint, and in the voice, we hear something of the self it belongs to. No two people sound exactly alike. The particular shape of the throat, the mouth, the whole body, gives each of us a sound that is ours alone, instantly recognizable to those who know us. This is why hearing the voice of someone we love, even briefly, even over a distance, can bring such immediate warmth and comfort. The voice carries not just words, but presence, a sense of the living person behind it. Our ancestors, gathered in the dark before sleep, knew one another most of all by voice, that intimate signature of the self. Long after a face grows hazy in memory, the sound of a beloved voice can remain, ready to return in a moment of remembering. There is deep tenderness in this, that each of us goes through life carrying a sound that is entirely our own, a small, unmistakable trace of the self, offered to the world each time we speak. Each person carries a scent that is entirely their own, and this quiet signature is more meaningful than we usually notice. Beneath any soap or perfume, every human being has a natural smell as individual as a fingerprint, one that those closest to us come to know without ever putting it into words. A parent can recognize their own child by scent, and infants know the smell of the one who cares for them. This is one of the oldest and most primal ways we identify one another, reaching back long before language. The familiar scent of a loved one can bring instant comfort, calling up their whole presence in a breath, which is why a piece of their clothing can be so soothing when they are far away or gone. It is a tender thought that each of us carries an invisible trace of ourselves that the people who love us can recognize in the dark. Among all the signs of the self, this one is the quietest and among the most intimate, a small, private truth of who we are. Human beings everywhere are drawn to stories, and our love of them may come from the same source as our sense of the soul. To tell and hear a story is to slip briefly into another self, to feel what a different person feels, to see through eyes not our own. Around fires, in every age, people have gathered to share tales, binding themselves together through the lives of imagined others. This deep pull toward story flows from our remarkable ability to imagine other inner lives, the same ability that lets us love and understand real people. A story lets us live, for a little while, as someone else, and return gently changed. Our ancestors passed down their wisdom, their fears, and their hopes in stories, keeping whole worlds alive in the telling. Even now, a good story can move us as deeply as real events. It is one of the great gifts of the human self, this power to become another for a time, and perhaps the reason a quiet tale is such a fitting companion at the close of a long day. Sometimes those who have lost someone dream of them so vividly that the dream feels like a true visit, and these gentle dreams are known in nearly every culture. A person may dream of a loved one who has died, seeing them well and at peace, sometimes hearing a few reassuring words, and wake with a feeling of comfort that lingers for days. These dreams are common and often deeply meaningful to those who have them, offering a sense of connection that grief had seemed to break. Whatever we believe about them, they show how powerfully the mind holds on to those we love, keeping them alive in the vivid theater of sleep. The bond does not simply vanish, it surfaces in dreams, tender and whole, long after a person is gone. Our ancestors treasured such dreams as messages from the departed, and even now they bring real solace. There is something soft in knowing that in sleep, the people we have lost can return to us for a while, met again in the quiet country of dreams. The way we mourn, and even the colors we wear to do it, differ around the world, and this variety gently reminds us that grief is universal, even when its customs are not. In some lands, the color of mourning is dark, in others it is white, and in still others it is a soft yellow or pale shade. Some cultures grieve quietly and privately, others openly and together, with shared weeping and long ceremonies. Yet beneath all these different forms lies the same deep human experience, the ache of loss and the need to honor those who have gone. Every society, without exception, has found ways to mark a death, to gather, to remember, to carry one another through sorrow. It is one of the surest signs of how much the bonds between selves truly matter to us. However differently we express it, the grief itself is shared by all of humanity, a proof of love as much as loss. In mourning, people everywhere say the same wordless thing, that this person mattered and will not be forgotten. We do not experience the present moment quite as directly as we imagine, And this small, strange fact tells us something about the self. It takes a little time for signals from the world to reach the brain and be woven into experience. So the vivid now you seem to live in is always assembled a heartbeat after the fact. The brain smooths this over so perfectly that we never notice the tiny delay, presenting us with a seamless present that feels immediate and whole. In a sense, the self is always living a moment in the past, gently catching up to a world that has already moved on. Yet the experience is flawless, a continuous now with no seams showing. It is one more sign of how much of our reality is quietly constructed by the mind, built into a smooth and living present we can inhabit. Far from unsettling, there is wonder in it. The rich, immediate moment you are resting in right now is a gift the brain assembles for you, tirelessly and invisibly, so that you may simply live inside it. The mind quietly fills in the gaps in what we perceive so smoothly that the world always seems complete, and this gentle filling in is part of how the self is made. Your eyes, for instance, have a small blind spot where no light is registered, yet you never see a hole in the world because the brain patches it seamlessly. In countless ways, the mind takes incomplete information and builds from it a whole and coherent experience, a steady world and a steady self. Much of what feels solid and given is in truth constructed, assembled moment by moment from fragments and offered to us finished. This is not deception. It is the mind's great work of making a livable world out of scattered signals. And the self is perhaps its finest creation, a smooth and continuous sense of being someone, woven from countless pieces into one seamless whole. There is something reassuring in this. The wholeness you feel, the steady sense of you, is the work of a mind quietly devoted all your life to keeping you whole. Long before there were mirrors of glass, people met their own reflection in still water, and gazing at that watery double stirred deep feelings about the self. To lean over a calm pond and see a face looking back must have been a strange and powerful thing, a first meeting with one's own image. Old stories from many lands treat the reflection with care and even caution, sometimes seeing it as a glimpse of the soul itself, fragile and not to be disturbed. There is a famous ancient tale of a youth who gazed so long at his own reflection that he could not turn away, a gentle warning about becoming lost in the self. Even now, catching sight of your own face unexpectedly can bring a small jolt of recognition, that quiet startle of meeting yourself. The reflection remains one of the strangest experiences we have, this daily encounter with an image of the self, a face we know better than any other, and yet can never quite see the way others do. Of all the feelings that settle the self, gratitude may be among the most quietly powerful, and it asks nothing but a turning of attention. To notice what is good, to feel thankful for a warm bed, a safe night, a breath easily taken, gently shifts the whole tone of the inner world. Those who study such things find that turning toward gratitude tends to calm the mind and soften worry, drawing the self away from what is lacking toward what is already here. Our ancestors wove thankfulness into their rituals and their evenings, pausing to acknowledge the gifts of the day before letting it go. There is wisdom in ending a day this way. However the hours have gone, there is nearly always something small to be grateful for, some quiet good hidden in the ordinary. As this day closes, you might let a soft thankfulness rise for the rest that is coming, for the simple fact of being here, awake and alive and gently tired. Gratitude makes a peaceful pillow for the self at the end of a long day. When a candle burns low and finally goes out, it does not vanish in fear, but simply grows quiet. And our ancestors often reached for this image when they spoke of the end of a life. The small flame that has given its warm light all evening gradually softens, flickers gently, and settles at last into stillness and calm. There's nothing frightening in the way a candle rests. It has done its work, it has given its light, and now it grows peaceful. Many gentle traditions imagined the passing of the self this way, not as a violent loss, but as a quiet settling, a soft return to rest. Whatever we believe waits beyond, the image offers a certain peace. A life, like a candle, gives its warmth and light for a while, brightening the space around it, touching everything nearby with its glow. And when at last it grows quiet, it leaves behind the memory of that light in every heart it warmed. Tonight, you can let your own small flame burn low and easy, settling gently toward rest. We have wandered far tonight, through breath and shadow and star, through the beliefs of ancient peoples and the careful findings of modern science, all circling the same quiet mystery of the self. And perhaps the gentlest truth of all is that the mystery remains, and that this is not a lack, but a kind of gift. To be a self, aware and feeling, wondering at its own existence, is among the strangest and most beautiful facts we know. No one has ever fully explained it, and maybe no one ever will, but you do not need the answer to rest inside the wonder of it. You are here, tonight, a small, warm point of awareness in a vast and ancient universe, briefly gathered into someone who can marvel at being alive. That is enough. It has always been enough. Let the question stay open and soft, a mystery large enough to sleep within, asking nothing of you now but to let go. Let all of these thoughts settle behind you now, like pages closing softly at the end of a long evening. You do not need to follow them any further. You do not need to remember a single fact or solve a single mystery or reach any answer at all. Let the room grow still around you. Let your breathing slow to its own gentle rhythm, the ancient rhythm our ancestors called the very movement of the soul. There is nothing left to do tonight but rest. The old questions will keep, the stars will hold their places. The quiet self at the center of you, the one that has been with you since your first breath, needs only to loosen now and let the day fall away. If this calm kind of wondering helps you find rest, you are always welcome to return whenever the night feels too large or too loud. Another quiet night will be waiting when you are ready. But for now, let the thoughts grow distant and soft. Let yourself sink gently into the dark. Sleep well, and good night.